Good day, everybody. This is round two for me on day 23 because I just recorded this whole thing and forgot to share the screen, which means it was the whole thing was just of you seeing me talking, and yeah, uh, yeah, I didn't spend all the time working on the slide, so you can spend the time looking at me. So this is take two for me. So let's just get on with this. We're reading Genesis 32 to 34. Um, the one thing I don't know if you noticed or not, but starting with a clean slate, starting from the beginning, and we're moving forward, you should note that nobody has had as many encounters as Jacob did. I mean, we've got Abraham. Abraham had a lot of encounters, but like, are you counting? Like Jacob here has an eye for angels. Like, it's just incredible stuff. And so we read here, Jacob went on his way in chapter 32, verses 1 to 2. Jacob went on his way, and God's messengers approached him. So he's leaving Laban. He's leaving this really stressful encounter with his abusive father-in-law. He goes away, and God's messengers approach him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp," and he named that sacred place Mahanaim. Uh, yeah. So then we have in verse 78. Just I wanted to point this out to you because uh, really, since way back at the beginning, fear has had a terrible effect on us. Fear can cause us to forget about God. Fear can just completely. It's like a self-preservation thing. If your relationship with Him is not strong enough that you think of Him first, you're just going to slip into that animal instinct of self-preservation. And so we read here in verse 78, Jacob was terrified and felt trapped. He felt trapped. He just found out that Laban is on his way with 400 men. Why would he bring 400 men? But he's bringing 400 men. And Jacob is just feeling terrified and trapped with this whole thing. So he's looking at trying to preserve the family, his family. It's 20 years he's been building this family, and so he divides the people into two camps. He divides the people with him and the flocks, cattle, and camels into two camps. It says he thought if Esau meets the first camp and attacks it, at least one camp will be left to escape. I'm not sure how he thought that they would be able to escape on foot from 400 men, but that's what his thinking, and it's not rational, but that's what fear does to us. But we see here that Jacob actually isn't like that. When we go to the next verse, what do we find? He does remember God. So he's still remember. He's still developing this relationship with God. He doesn't know near as much as what we know, but he does what he can, and then he goes to God. Lord God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, who said to me, "Go back to your country and your relatives, and I'll make sure things go well for you." Now, this is amazing, people. This is this principle of reminding God of the promises that He's made. He's not offended by that. He loves that. He loves to be reminded. We're encouraged to declare His promises. We're encouraged to speak them out, to remind Him, because it means we're paying attention. It means we're leaning on Him. It means that we have expectation that He's going to keep His word. And we know the extents that he's gone through to keep His word, that He's demonstrated that He is a God who keeps His word. He does not lie, and He always follows through on what He promises. And so that's what Jacob is doing here. He said, "Hey, you're the one who said to me, go back to your country. This was your idea. This is, and you promised me I'll make things go well for you." Um, and I just want to make sure we're still on the same page here. I just want to make sure it's okay. It's okay to take those things to God. But see, he doesn't do it from a point of arrogance. Hey, you said it was going to go well for me. He it is from a position of humility. Look at this. I don't deserve how loyal and truthful you've been to your servant. This is in verse 10. I don't deserve how loyal and truthful you've been to your servant. How loyal to the promises he gave him, truthful that he's never lied to Jacob. I went away across the Jordan with just my staff, but now I've become two camps. Like he's just standing there in this amazement, this awe. Like I don't deserve this, but look what you've done for me. Man, none of us can afford to be arrogant with God. We can be bold. That's he told us to be bold in his promises, bold in what he's told us. But we can't be arrogant as, hey, I deserve better than this. And sometimes we get into those situations. He like a Job, he brings us into a situation for his purposes, and then we're all offended because, hey, I deserve better than this. But here's Jacob. I don't deserve how loyal and truthful you've been to me. And then we have the ask. He's come to the Lord for a reason. Save me from my brother Esau. Because, like, all Jacob knows is his twin brother from 20 years ago, who was rash, who was angry, who didn't value things that he should value. And Jacob seems to have been cut from a different cloth. He just got different stuff in that womb than Esau did, and his values are different. And like we've done this to people, we've done this to people, and we've talked about this before, where we just freeze frame people from where we last encountered, as if we expected that they have not progressed, they have not matured, they have not changed. We want them to know that we've changed. We want them to know that we're not like what we used to be, but we're not always willing to credit other people. We expect to show up and see them in the same way. And some people are. Some people don't mature. Some people don't grow. Some people don't move on. In fact, they digress. But this is where he is. Save me from my brother Esau. I'm afraid he will come and kill me. So he's calling as is, Lord, this is my fear. This is what I'm afraid of. Do we do that? Do we take our fears to the Lord, or are we ashamed of them? Do we come before him in all honesty and say, I'm afraid I can't do this? Or I'm afraid that I don't have the money, or I'm afraid that if I give this away, I won't be able to buy groceries this week. Like, this is my fear. I'm confessing it. This is my weakness. I'm afraid. I'm afraid he will come and kill me, the mothers and the children. You were the one who told me, I will make sure things go well for you, and I will make your descendants like the sand of the sea. So many, you won't be able to count them. So Lord, like, if you don't protect me from my brother, I can't see how you're going to come through on this promise. Not an accusation. He's just telling the Lord his perspective. Listen, this is a great relationship that Jacob has here. There's no arrogance in this. I always thought that Jacob was arrogant but the Spirit is just letting me see him through different eyes right now, and I see in him that he was abused and he was a victim in many ways, and the things that he did do, he did for survival. That's not saying that was okay, but it was survival, and then he wrestles. Then he gets to this place where he refuses until he receives something. And Jacob stayed apart by himself. A man wrestled with him until dawn broke. That's describing a messenger. Often they're referred to it as a man, because they're not, but there's a form there. Obviously, Jacob was able to hold on, and he wrestled. So not only did he see, not only did he speak with, but he also wrestled with this angel, and it was a matter of man, he doesn't want to let go until he has assurances. He doesn't want to face his brother until he has assurances. He wants to feel that blessing. He wants that peace. He wants to feel that peace. He wants to know everything's going to be okay. And sometimes there is a resistance from God, not in a mean way, but because he has more for us, and he wants us to go deeper, and he wants the situation to bring us into a richer part of relationship with him. The man said, let go because the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I won't let go until you bless me. I mean, have you been there? Have you been there at a point where you feel you can't breathe, like the walls are closing in on you, like you're just going to suffocate? I mean, the stress of it, you can't see the end of it. It's darkness that's coming in on you, and you just hold on to God and I'm not letting go. I am not letting go of you. I am not letting go of you. And you just hold on and you pray all night and you're looking for that assurance. You're looking for something, you're looking for some relief. You want you want to receive. I won't let go until you bless me. And true to nature, look at this. True to nature. Chapter 33, verses 1 to 4. True to the nature of fear, there is no substance to it. Look at this. Jacob looked up and saw Esau approaching him with 400 men. Jacob divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two women servants. He put the servants and their children first, Leah and her children after them, and Rachel and Joseph last. But you notice what Esau did? Or sorry, what Jacob did? He didn't hide behind everybody. He went in front of them. He went in front of his family. He himself went in front of them and bowed. Man, humility. Humility. He bowed to the ground 7 times as he was approaching his brother. Look at this. It almost makes me want to cry. Just because I know all those times that fear seemed to so real. Disaster seemed so real in my life. So many things that just like death was upon me. And nothing ever had any substance. But Esau ran to meet him, threw his arms around his neck, kissed him, and they wept. Man, it's got to be one of the most incredibly emotional things if you can allow the Spirit just to put you in that moment. All that fear, all that anxiety, all that praying, all that wrestling, and to have this incredible, beautiful moment with his twin, the brother he's been estranged with for 20 years, and they wept. Ever been forgiven? Have you ever done something so horrendous that you thought there would never be any forgiveness and that you would have to live with the guilt of that situation forever? And Esau didn't want to accept anything from Jacob. They wouldn't accept anything from him at all. And Jacob insisted and said, no, please, do me the kindness of accepting my gift. Do me the kindness of accepting my gift. Seeing your face, it's like seeing God's face since you've accepted me so warmly. Verse 16. Then in all of this, why didn't he follow his brother? Why didn't he follow his twin? He put him off even. Esau wanted to travel with him. Man, the joy of traveling with your brother who had been estranged with you for so long. But Jacob said, no, we're gonna have to travel slow. And then he wanted to leave his men to protect him. And it's like, no, it's okay. We're okay. I'm gonna have to nurse the newborn animals and so on. Like he gives them all these reasons. But then we read the day Esau returned to the road to Seir, but Jacob traveled to Succoth. He built a house for himself, but made temporary shelters for his animals. Temporary because they were nomads and they would wander around. But he did make a permanent place for himself. There he named the place Succoth. So did Jacob have a problem with trust at this stage? I would think so. 20 years in an abusive situation, 20 years of being taken advantage of, 20 years. Man, that's got to leave a mark on your mental health. and there would be a problem with trust. As much as he wanted the forgiveness of his brother, at the same time, he couldn't bring himself to that place of trust. That's my perspective. That's kind of the sense that I get it from it as I'm reading it. I can fully understand it. And then in verse 20 again we have uh, borrowing from the culture around him, El Elo Israel, and he set up an altar there and named it El Elo Israel. But the fact is that he set up an altar. The fact is he worshipped. And now we find Jacob spending a lot of time worshiping. Spend a lot of time. Because why? Because God proved himself righteous. Right? And you could think, well, of course he's righteous. But they don't know him. They're learning about him. Jacob now knows he keeps his promises. Jacob now knows he protects. Jacob now knows he provides. He has been multiplied. He has this huge family to provide for. He is so rich, so wealthy. And so he worships. In chapter 34, verse 2, we may think this was usual for this age here. Let me just remind you what has happened. When Shechem, the son of the Hivite Hamor, and the country's prince saw her, this is Dinah, this is the daughter of Jacob. He took her, slept with her, and humiliated her. Let's call it what it is. He raped her. He raped her. And we would think that it's a barbaric culture and that this is what they do. And we shouldn't be surprised by this, that Dinah shouldn't have been out by herself. She has brothers. She should have been protected. But then we read this in verse 7. Just then, Jacob's sons got back from the countryside. When they heard what had happened, they were deeply offended and very angry because Shechem had disgraced Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter. Okay, that is normal. We can understand that. Such things are simply not done. What? In this age that we from our perspective look at and consider maybe this is barbaric, says such things are simply not done. We can't say that in our day and age. There's a lot of things being revealed in our culture. A lot of people that are stepping forward just to say how bad things are in the undercurrent of our society. But in their society, such things are simply not done. Tells it some. Now, I do want to point out, though, as we go through this, that God is not mentioned at all in this chapter. Look what happens now. Jacob's sons responded deviously to Shechem and his father Hamor because Shechem defiled their sister Dinah. Deviously. Notice it's Jacob's sons. It's not Jacob. Jacob has no part with this. Jacob isn't even aware what his sons are doing at all. And they respond deviously to him. They get them into a weakened condition, is what they end up doing. They want vengeance. They want to rescue their sister. So, on the third day, when they were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons and Dinah's brothers, Simeon and Levi, took their swords, came into the city, which suspected nothing, and killed every male. Okay, there are wars which become necessary when you have a country taking advantage of another country, a country that is enslaving another country. Then righteous countries rise up and protect that weaker country. There's going to be a loss of life. We can understand that sort of thing. We can't understand when it's about territory, when it's about commodities, when it's about that sort of stuff. But when it has to do with protecting a victim from an aggressor, I think we can understand that. But none of that has anything to do with this. This wasn't the sons calling out this place to battle. No, they were devious. They were underhanded. They tricked them, and then when they weren't suspecting anything, and they were in a weakened condition, they went in and murdered them. That's what they did. They murdered them, every male. Listen, that's not our Father's heart. Our Father is not evil for evil. We know that. We should know that. We should know Scripture enough to know that He does not tell us evil for evil. In fact, He tells us to heap burning coals of kindness. And we have a Lord who told us to love our enemies. Yeah, He deals with the judgment, not us. Anyway, in 30, verse 30, we see the wisdom of Jacob here. Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You've put me in danger by making me offensive to those who live here in the land, to the Canaanites and the Perizzites. I've only a few men. They may join forces, attack me, and destroy me and my household." So Jacob knew that he was in a weakened state. He was in a position here that he had to deal with this thing. In I don't know if he would say in a diplomatic way, but he had to deal with it in a way that um, he wasn't going to bring these tribes, these people down upon his head. And so he's getting after his sons. Look what you've done to me. Look what you've done to me, Simeon and Levi. And ain't this the truth? We always feel justified when we're wronged. We always feel justified when we're wronged. They said, but didn't he treat our sister like a prostitute? We have to be really careful because we can justify our actions. We can justify our words. We can say, well, they deserved it, or they asked for it, or they made me angry, or they provoked me. But we've been given a spirit of self-control. We don't have this excuse. And we need to listen to the wisdom of the Spirit. And we can't afford to be rash. We see examples here of what happens when people are rash. And Jacob was definitely not rash. He was not a man who he was rash whatsoever. And but we see the rashness in Esau, who gave away his birthright, and we see the rashness in Rachel, who stole from her father, and without God's intervention, it could have been the end of that family. And now we have this situation, which again, if not for the intervention of God, could end in the death of this family. And in this whole chapter, God isn't mentioned at all because he's not involved in any of this. This is all the actions of a broken humanity. And people who don't understand this would read the Bible and say, well, look, this was sanctioned by God. Like, why did he do this? Well, he didn't do this. Broken humanity did that. Those imperfect brothers did that. These rash and deceitful brothers, and we know that they are rash and deceitful by their other actions, by what they end up doing to Joseph down the road. We can see this. Don't blame this on God. Don't let God be blamed for broken broken creation and broken humanity. So yeah, so there you go. Done again. It's all yours. Praying you're getting stuff out of this. Love you guys. I am glad you're on this journey with me, and you guys have a fantastic day.